flood levels functionality. That's a brand new function in Civil Designer 8.4. In this exercise that I'm going to show you, we're actually looking at an existing project where we're looking at positioning your structure above the recorded flood level. So this is an actual project that I'm going to show you in this exercise. I've got the CAD footprint of that building that we're trying to position above the flood line. Okay, so I've just switched the CAD layer on, and then looking at the actual function, it's under terrain, drainage, flood levels. So this is a brand new function in 8.4. You would specify which surface you want to check the flood levels of. You can then specify the actual level, the water surface level. The surface maximum just picks up the highest level on your site and then uses that as your flood level. You can set your depth increments. It's going to calculate your volume of water that's been retained inside that or on your surface. There's quite a few different CAD outputs, but we'll come back to that later. So I'm just going to run the function first. So it's terrain, drainage, and flood levels. Okay, so I'm just going to run it again at the same settings. And we essentially, in this case, not outputting anything to CAD, it's just the actual water volume that we're calculating there. So it gives you the volumes for each depth band, and then it gives you the cumulative volumes. So what we did now is similar to the dam volumes function, but for this new flood levels, you don't actually need a depression. You can run it on any surface. So I'm just running it again on that same existing topo surface, and I'm specifying the actual recorded flood level in this case, and then I'm also outputting it to CAD. Couple of options there. You can have a polyline or hatching at the flood level, or you can have a polyline or hatching or solid fill at every depth increment. So I'm just putting in the hatching at the actual flood level, outputting that to a CAD layer that I created. Okay. And you can see we look okay there, but we still need to build in some sort of safety factor. I'm going to try 0.5 meter above the recorded flood level and see what that looks like. So if I run that flood levels, drainage flood levels again, and I'm adding 0.5 meter to the recorded flood level, so making that 61.56, and I'm sending it to that same CAD layer. The program then recognizes that there was something on that layer before. Do I want to clear it? So I say yes, and then it hatches, and you can see at that level we don't have the required elevation for our dwelling, so we're going to have flooding. So what has happened now, we've got an actual surface in this project that has been redesigned to take those flood levels into consideration. So this is my surface 2 that I've now switched on, and I'm just going to run the flood levels now on this redesigned, remodeled new surface, and we can run it on this new ground surface, proposed surface. I'll just run it at the 61.06 at the recorded flood level firstly, and you can see over there everything's fine. We have an exit point at the top there for access to the site, and then if I run it at that 500 mils above the recorded flood level to that same CAD layer, just going to clear that, then we still seem to be okay. The structure still is in the clear. I can maybe just zoom in a little bit so we can see that footprint of the actual building is above that additional 0.5 meter above the flood level. I just want to show you the other options, the other CAD options. So I'm going to open up my control center and make use of the CAD layers tab at the bottom. So I'm just going to pin that open, the control centers, so we can switch the layer visibility on and off from the control center. I'm going to run that terrain flood levels, drainage flood levels again, and I'm going to set that down to that 61.06, the actual flood level, and then I'll output just the polyline at that flood level, and I'm putting it onto that specific CAD layer. So I've created this layer previously. So there you can see that flood level, the polyline representing the flood level. Generally, if you refresh, the line would disappear. So I'm just switching it on, switching the visibility on in that layer tab. I'm going to run the flood levels again, and this time we're going to go to the polyline at every depth increment. So at every 100 mils from the lowest level up to our flood level, we want depth increment polylines. Okay, and I'm outputting it to that specific layer again. And there you can see the polylines at every 100 mils that were created. Once again, if you refresh, they will disappear. So I would just need to switch that on the visibility of that particular layer. I'm just going to hit spacebar just to run the function again, and then I'm going to put in some solid fill at every depth increment. Okay, so you've seen the solid fill at the flood level. In this case, I just want to show you that last option, which is the hatching or solid fill at every depth increment. I'm just going to switch on some contours so you can see exactly what levels we're looking at. But as you can see, this flood levels is a very useful function for flood risk assessments.